What's up, YouTube? It's the Quintessential Tuber here, and I have another video today. This time I'm going to be a little off subject. This is not going to be my normal topic of discussion, which is usually INTJs. I did some skits, roller skating, some comedy skits, but this isn't going to be my norm. I did say I was going to discuss this subject, and this is some legal matters for people who are incarcerated or those who know people who are incarcerated. So, my subject today is based on the fact that I watched the documentary series Making a Murderer. I watched season 1 some time ago when it first came out, and I completed season 2 just over this weekend, it came out October 19th. Yes, and I just watched it all, every episode, one by one. So why do I want to discuss this? Well, the reason why I want to discuss this is because I kind of dabbled in the legal field for a little bit, and I know people who were paralegals, I know people who were lawyers, and most of them quit out of frustration because, and I will mention this later, because of an act. So, and of course, if you don't know, an act is a law. So because of a certain act, a lot of people I know who were in the legal or legislation field, they quit. So why do I want to talk about Making a Murderer? Well, because in my lifetime, there have been 3, including the Dassey and Avery case. There were 3 total groundbreaking, publicized, or benchmark trials that were publicized or televised. The first being the Rodney King trial. That was a benchmark because, to me, it proves the theory that it's not what you know, but what you can prove completely wrong. It was proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Rodney King suffered police brutality. And despite this being on video, all of those police officers were found not guilty. That's a benchmark. That was a benchmark case. 2 is the OJ trial, the first one. I think that was a benchmark trial because it was televised from beginning to end, which is one thing. And I think the Rodney King trial was the first one to be televised, but not Rodney King being on trial, the police officers involved in that brutality. And then the O.J. Simpson case, referring to Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson. That was a benchmark 1, the television aspect of it, but also it shows how proper representation can actually put up a good defense. So, but first of all, I want to say this. I'm not taking sides in any of these cases. I'm not taking sides. I'm talking about this from an objective standpoint and a legal standpoint. So next, the Avery and Dassey case. This is a benchmark because, to me, because this clearly shows how the justice system can go wrong. This is the American justice system at its worst. Completely bad. And that's why I wanted to discuss this. So, what do I want to discuss concerning Avery and Dassey? Well, as I said, I'm not taking sides. But the reason why I want to discuss this is because we're living in times now where you can get locked up for almost anything. I mean, we all see it every day, especially some of us more so than others, how police are running amok. So this concerns you because if you ever happen to find yourself in the bad circumstance of getting locked up, chances are, even if you're innocent, you'll never get out. And that's because of what I mentioned before, an act that was put into Congress by Bill Clinton, and it is the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act from 1996. Because of this act, judges, lawyers, whoever, their hands are tied. Once you have been convicted of a once you have been convicted of a crime, then it is up to, or all of the courts after the state court are really just I can't remember the word for it, but they are upholding that conviction. I can't remember the adjective, but really once you've been convicted of a felony, a crime, or whatever, because of that act, judges will not objectively look at your charges to seek justice. They are going to uphold it. And a lot of people that I know who were paralegals and lawyers and so forth, they quit because you can't even fight cases anymore. This law really pretty much prevents them from even fighting your case. Anyone who knows someone that's locked up, or anyone who has been locked up, knows from 1996 onward, you were not able to get any relief in court unless you asked the judge for a reconsideration. But other than that, once you get convicted of a crime, you're there until the parole system lets you go, for the most part. And why do I want to mention this? I want to mention this because of the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment states that no person can be forced into servitude unless convicted of a felony. We all know that prisons are the new plantations. It's what they call the prison industrial complex. When you go to prison, you are forced in some states to work in these plants. Victoria's Secret has some shops in some prisons. A lot of these blue jean companies, sneaker companies, and it's all over the world, not just in the United States, but more so in the United States than any other place. But a lot of these clothing companies, they have factories in these prisons where the inmates are forced to work in these factories. So they took people out of the cotton fields and put them into these industrial prison complexes. Now, why do I mention this? Because if the United States can lock a person up and enact laws and say you cannot get out, then they're going to continue to lock people up knowing that you can't get out, knowing that they can get cheap labor out of humans. Now, also, why is this important? Well, if you happen to live in a factory town and that factory shuts down, what do you think is going to be built there next? It's going to be a prison. Typically, that's what they do. When towns start suffering from joblessness, they build prisons in those towns. Now, as it turns out, sometimes they can't fill the beds for these prisons. So they just start locking up random people, the people in that community that are undesirables. The homeless people, the poor people, the immigrants, illegals, drunkards, drug addicts, they just do a dragnet clean sweep and lock up all the undesirables and fill the beds of those prisons and make those people work in those prison warehouses. So you have the 13th Amendment and the AEDP, ADPA, Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act, both working hand in hand so that the United States can have the largest prison population in the world, despite having one of the smallest population of people in the world. So I think this should be brought to people's attention because I think we're on the verge of something very, very terrible happening. Because if this Avery and Dassey case don't get heard, despite enough evidence being shown that these cases should be heard and overturned and retried, then with what's going on now with the current administration, a lot of people are going to be sent to prison and they won't get out. They will not get out. So As I said, I'm not taking sides on this, and I think before you form a subjective opinion or even an objective opinion, look at Making a Murderer season 1 and season 2 and look at it with an open eye, and also be objective about it. But also there's another documentary out called The 13th. Look at that documentary also, because that will help you understand the 13th Amendment. But read the 13th Amendment. Read this Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act. Read that. And then also understand or do some research on what I just mentioned, the prison industrial complex. What I think that's the term for it. But how prisons build these big old factories. So look into this before you form an opinion, before you give me some negative comments in on my YouTube page for this video. Do the research. Don't be quick to form an opinion. Don't be quick to be angry. Just do the research. So as I said, my only point to this is that I think this Avery and Dassey case, these two cases, either they will change law and they will be benchmark cases that will be remembered, or this will show where the United States justice system is going, where there's going to be large sums of people who will get locked up and won't get out. It's already going on anyhow, but with the way this world is now, or the way the United States is going, there's going to be a whole lot more people getting locked up. So that's all I wanted to say about this. I'm off subject, my normal subject, but just be open-minded about all of this. And thanks for watching my video. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.